This is a CBS News special report. I'm Bob Schieffer in New York. There is breaking news from Perugia, Italy at this hour. A verdict in the appeals trial of Amanda Knox. She is the American student, of course, who was convicted of murdering her roommate. Her Italian boyfriend was also convicted. This case has made headlines all over the world. In 2009, Knox was sentenced to 26 years in prison, but she has always maintained her innocence, and much of the evidence from the first trial was thrown out or discredited. The jury can either confirm or overturn the guilty verdict. 48 Hours correspondent Peter Van Zandt is just outside the courthouse in Perugia. John, tell us what's about to happen here.
Well, the jury, 6 members of the jury, 2 judges are about to file back into the courtroom. This happens very quickly in Italy. The 6 charges will be announced and the verdicts announced. If she is found not guilty, you will hear the word riforma. That means that it's overturned. If the first charge you will hear is the murder charge, if that is overturned, the next 4 will likely be overturned as well. The only thing she could be found guilty then today is of implicating her former boss, Patrick Lumumba, at the very start of this case when she said that he was in the house when the murder took place. But even in that case, she would walk out of this courtroom. She would be able to leave because of time served. I have to tell you right now, Bob, we've been watching these images. 2 years ago when Amanda Knox came in for sentencing, she had a smile on her face. She looked healthy because she truly believed she would be found not guilty. Tonight, the look of concern on her face is palpable. She's been overwhelmed by emotion a couple of times. The pressure on her is excruciating. And remember, she gave the final closing arguments in the case when she addressed this court and said she was an innocent woman, that she had been manipulated by the police to give what she has said is a false confession. And we know now that the DNA in this case fell away, that DNA evidence from the first trial. The eyewitnesses have been discredited. The only thing that's really left that she could be found guilty of that could link her to that guilty verdict is this false statement that she claims she made. The prosecutor says, no, that's the truth. And so she knows right now this could still be a jump ball.
Well, we just saw a picture of her just now, and I must say I agree with what you just said, Peter. She looked like someone on the verge of emotional collapse, and indeed she probably is. That would be very understandable. As she was brought into the courtroom, she was taking very deep breaths. She looked several times when she was seated at the table as if she were about to break into tears. At one point, she kind of put her head in her hands. Now, Peter, if this verdict is affirmed, and I believe this is the jury now coming in. No, these are earlier pictures of her coming into the courtroom. We'll just see. Yes, here she is, as you can see. This is someone under a great deal of emotional stress. But Peter, let me ask you, because it's different in an Italian courtroom than it is in an American courtroom. You're either found guilty or not guilty, then there's an appeal. But in Italy, the appeal is actually heard by a jury and judges. Now, how does that work?
It's a second trial, essentially. If the appeal is granted, it's because new evidence has come forward or significant questions of evidence that was used to convict someone has been challenged. In this case, that was the situation, and they were granted this second trial. We reported at CBS News 3 years ago that this case basically stunk to high heaven, that the DNA that was used to convict her in the first case would not have been admissible in a United States or British courtroom, that the eyewitnesses to this crime, one man is a heroin addict, a homeless man who has testified for this prosecution team in 2 other murder cases besides this one. I call him the Forrest Gump of Italy, where all of these things seem to somehow happen in front of him. It's a prosecution that is shocking in many ways, and the lead prosecutor, Giuliano Menini, if this conviction is overturned, will have a reckoning of his own. He is appealing his conviction. of abuse of office in another trial.
We're
Believe it or
waiting
not, he
for
was found
everybody
guilty of
to
abuse of
be
office,
sorted
allowed to
out.
prosecute this.
All right, the judge
name
is
of
just
the
here,
Italian
and
people.
these are
Back to
members
you.
of the
Here's the
jury
judge.
that are
The
coming
Court
in.
of Perugia, in Article 605,
Visto l'articolo 605 Codice di procedura penale,
not guilty
imparziale riforma della sentenza pronunciata in data 4-5 dicembre
from
2009 dalla Corte di Assise di Primo
for
Grado di
Amanda Knox
Perugia
and Raffaele
nei
Sollecito,
confronti di Knox Amanda Marie e Sollecito Raffaele, appellata dagli stessi e in via
declares,
incidentale
the court
dal Procuratore
declares,
della Repubblica di Perugia,
Knox Amanda guilty of the
Knox
charge
Amanda Marie
of false
colpevole del reato di
accusing an
calunnia,
innocent
di
man,
cui al capo F, esclusa l'aggravante di cui all'articolo 61 numero 2 Codice penale,
recognizing generic
e riconosciute
attenuation,
attenuanti generiche equivalenti all'aggravante di cui al secondo comma dell'articolo 368 Codice penale,
sentenced to 3 years in
la condanna alla
prison,
pena di anni 3 di reclusione,
confirms
conferma limitatamente a tale capo le
also
statuizioni
condemns
civili di cui alla
Amanda
sentenza appellata
to pay
e condanna Knox Amanda
defense
Marie
of civil
al pagamento
party
delle spese di costituzione e difesa di parte
for
civile
Patrick Lumumba.
sostenute nel presente grado da Patrick Dia Lumumba,
That's 22,000
liquidati in
euros.
complessivi euro 22.170 per diritti ed onorari, oltre al rimborso forfettario di spese generali ed accessori di
Both
So
legge.
that's the
are
headline,
acquitted
not guilty of murder. The judge is now
for
talking about
not
some of the
having
lesser
committed
charges.
the
C e D per non aver commesso il fatto e dal reato di cui al
Because
capo E, per favore,
the fact does not
perché il
exist.
fatto non sussiste, respingendo la domanda proposta nei loro confronti dalle parti civili Tattanelli,
Orders
Aldana.
immediate release from prison.
Ordina l'immediata liberazione di Knox Amanda Marie e
All right,
Sollecito
Peter.
Raffaele,
Well, there it
se non
is. She's
detenuti per
released
altre
from
cause.
prison and found not guilty of murder.
Silenzio, silenzio per favore, silenzio. Indica per il
Amanda Knox
deposito della
Motivation,
Walk out
90
tonight,
days
a
for the
free woman.
motivation.
l'udienza è tolta.
The faces tell the story.
Amanda Knox hugging members of her family. She will be a free woman tonight. The plans are to get her out of this country as quickly as possible. You can hear people reacting out here. There was a shock through the crowd, and there's some yelling going on. There are two entrances here, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people. Remember, she was the she-devil, is how she was portrayed here. So people are genuinely shocked that she is walking free.
And so she'll be allowed to leave the country now that this verdict has
She
been
will be
issued.
allowed to leave the country. Extraordinary. She will be allowed to leave the country. She was sentenced to 3 years, but she's already served more than that. Her family is here. They have plans to get her out of the country as quickly as they can. Raffaele Sollecito, her former Italian boyfriend, will also be freed. This is stunning news here in Italy. This is the trial of the century, and people out here are shocked because they were fed for years through the tabloid press these stories of sex orgies and Satanism and ritualistic killings, all of which were totally false.
Well, there you have it. The headline again, Amanda Knox is not guilty and she will be allowed to leave Italy. There's going to be much more on the Amanda Knox decision on your local news at cbsnews.com and, of course, on the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley tonight. I'm Bob Schieffer in New York. Good day.
For news 24 hours a day, go to cbsnews.com.